We're back. It's me, Rory Paddock, and John Arnold for Racing Daily. It's on the nod, and it's day 3 of the Royal Meeting. It's Gold Cup Day. We're at the halfway stage. 7 races to get stuck into. So without further ado, let's do just that. John, the Norfolk Stakes, Charles Darwin, the current odds-on favourite, worth taking on, or clearly the winner in the first?
I think after what we've seen this week with some of the other O'Brien horses, with True Love and with Gestad, it pays to stay with what the form book says. So I think Charles Darwin has everything going its way to win. Another selection to go with it each way would be Naval Light. Carl Burke, good record with 2-year-olds at Ascot, and that was second behind Oldest Gold. So I would put Charles Darwin to win and Naval Light each way to follow at home.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think it'd perhaps be a bit foolish to take on the favourite. Charles Darwin ticks all the right boxes. The form looks really strong after what we've seen so far. I think I agree with you that I think Naval Light and Wise Approach at bigger prices, could be the ones to finish in behind it. I don't think they'll have enough to beat Charles Darwin. I'm going to be boring. It's the favourite for me on the nose. I don't think looking elsewhere is going to be overly fruitful. Like I said, Naval Light, I think, is probably the nearest one that'll get to it. And Wise Approach, perhaps at bigger odds, but Charles Darwin should be, in theory, an easy win for the Ballydoyle favourite in the opener. 305, we've got the King George V Stakes. Gunship wasn't miles behind Singers a Song at Sandown 2 starts back, I think. And I genuinely reckon over this longer trip, he'll finish much closer to the Beckett horse, if not reversing the form, potentially. And I just think at the odds, fair each way shout, nothing I'm overly strong with, but Gunship, just for a bit of an each way play in what looks a pretty tough race. Where are you going there, John, in the second?
I'm going with Daiquiri Bay. Alan King doesn't have many entries normally at Ascot, but he knows how to have a good staying horse, has been proved in the past. So I'm going to go Daiquiri Bay each way. But I also think you should have another bet on Serious Contender, who's again the combination of O'Brien and Moore. So they're going to be my two, Daiquiri Bay and Serious Contender.
Okay, moving on to the 340, we've got the Ribblesdale. Where do I start? I think we'll go Lady Vivian. I think is one of many recent sort of Wathnan purchases. Obviously, they've been getting out the checkbook in advance of Ascot, and it seems to be doing them quite well so far. She enters with a lively chance. I mean, she'll need to show Martin's improvement as she won a handicap. She's now stepping up into group company, but Ralph Beckett is a master with these types of horses, and she could sneak into the money. I think the form of Serenity Prayers Musadora looks perhaps some of the strongest form on offer, and she seems the most likely victor to me. However, in a race as wide open as this, from a punting perspective, you have to sort of think there will be others that offer better value. I think if you were looking for a winner, gun to my head, I think Serenity Prayer probably is the winner, but can't be having it at the price in a race like this. I think it'd be foolish to ever rule out a Ballydoyle runner. So with that in mind, I'm going to take a chance with Garden of Eden, relish the step up to 1 mile 2, and I think she'll improve again. Now she's going over a longer trip. Not the most prolific, but I think if Aiden has now found the key to sort of unlock her potential by stepping up last time, further improvement could be likely here, and greater success perhaps down the line. Yeah, that's the one for me. Garden of Eden, each way bet. Hopefully Ballydoyle can do the business. Yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I like the thoughts of Garden of Eden. I think you're right. The horse should step up, and it could be an each way play. And I'd say that's an each way bet. My selection in the race is Life is Beautiful. It ran a good second behind Falarak in the Pretty Polly at Newmarket, and Gosden is having a good week with his runners, especially in the Group 1s. So I'm going to go with Life is Beautiful and Garden of Eden.
Hopefully we both deliver there. And it's the big one, the 420. It's the Ascot Golf Club, obviously seen as the jewel in the crown of the 5-day meeting. Obviously unfortunate that pre-race favourite Kyprios is no longer racing anymore. Obviously, been pulled. But as you know, with Ballydoyle, they've always got an extra something up their sleeve. Illinois, the current race favourite. You've got Trawlerman, who's not far behind. I think it's 2-1 to Illinois 15-8, so they're pretty much vying for favouritism. The French raider Candelari could have a say. Hasn't done much wrong. Perhaps from my perspective, I think it's perhaps a little bit unkind to the rest, but it looks a 3-horse race on paper. I don't think anything out of those three comes close to the rest. I'm not convinced that the French horse is going to appreciate the ground. So it looks somewhat of a match race between the Godolphin and Ballydoyle horses. And you know what? Just so it saves me having to split the pair, I'm going to go the reverse forecast. Trawlerman and Illinois to be way ahead of the rest. Again, perhaps I'm copying out there, aiming with just the two and not having to split the two. But that's what I'll go with. Hopefully they both deliver, and I'm not really forced to who comes first or second, as long as they do. John?
I spoke about Trawlerman last week, and I'm going to stick with Trawlerman each way. I think it's a strong selection. And Illinois, yes, there's a reason why it's gone in there to take the place of Kyprios, but I'm going to stick with Trawlerman. I think Trawlerman should do it this time. It's got the experience. And you're right, I think it will be a 2-horse race at the end between the two of them, but I'm with Trawlerman to win.
Trawlerman to get one over Illinois. Moving on to the 5 o'clock is the Britannia Stakes. I've gone for a couple in this. Obviously, as you probably expect with so many runners, I think Fear Not has a decent each-way chance. One of only a few horses that has previous course-winning form. Tribal Nation. We saw how well Joseph O'Brien's horses are going this week. And I think he was a tad unlucky when finishing third last time out. And Godolphin's 5th column, I think that looks way overpriced. It's not far off 20-1 at the minute. And especially considering that Buick has jumped aboard that as his first choice for Godolphin. Again, I don't think I'd be overly confident in all these three. I think it's just small each-way stakes plays, just for a bit of interest in what looks a very wide open race, and there's plenty of runners. Fear Not, Tribal Nation, and 5th column. Small stakes, each-way play there in the Britannia. Your thoughts, mate?
I had picked out Fear Not yesterday purely to do as well. Yeah, the course form, and Clive Cox trains it, and he hasn't had much happen for him this week so far. So Fear Not each way again for me. The other horse for me is Rafid. I think it's gone into favouritism now. Haggis and Tom Marquand. William Haggis hasn't had anything on the board so far, but normally he is involved with something at Royal Ascot. So I'm going to go with Rafid and Fear Not.
Brilliant. Then we've got the Hampton Court. It's the Hampton Court, even its penultimate race. I think this is an absolute nightmare of a race. So I'm going to let you lead off with this, mate.
Yeah, I'm going with, there's 2 horses and they're both coming over from Ireland. The first one is Ryanese. This horse won the Galleon Stakes but was demoted because Ben Cohen had issues with his whip use, and the horse veered off into other horses at the end and got demoted from 1st to 3rd. But I think hopefully if he's put that right with his skills, that should run a good race. So I'm putting up Ryanese, and it might sound a bit boring, but I'm going to go with Trinity College, aptly named after the place, obviously in Dublin. But O'Brien and Moore combination there, Trinity College, I think that's a good placement for that race. So it's going to be Trinity College and Ryanese for me in the 17:35.
Yeah, I think the form of that race over in Ireland, obviously we've got the 3 of them lining up. We've got Renesi, Trinity College, and Detain. They all meet again. Detain's obviously been quite heavily supported as well. You've got to think that Renesi, barring Cohen's, mishap, shall we say, that day would have won anyway, regardless. But I'm going to go with Trinity College, similar as you. I think 4-1 current price is a decent enough price for obviously a Ballydoyle Ryan Moore did the same as you, Ryan Moore ridden horse. And And I think potentially, if you find a bookmaker paying a quarter of the odds of plays, the 4-1 bet to nothing for Trinity College is a decent way to go. But there's one at a much, much bigger price that I reckon could outrun their odds. It's a horse called Emmett. The form of their second last time out isn't as bad as people might think at first glance, and I just think 50-1 is way too big. Again, small stakes each way play on Emmett. My idea of the winner is probably Trinity College, but play it safe. And if you can get 4-1 or bigger, I'd back it each way just to make the frame. Well, those are my two for the penultimate race. Now the lucky last. We've got the Buckingham Palace. It's an absolute cavalry charge, just shy of 30 odd runners. I've found this so difficult. I'll apologise to anyone watching this now or listening to this. It's perhaps too many in terms of selections, but I'm finding myself giving 4 in this. So again, apologies. Ride de France, I think if you saw previously on one of our previous episodes of On the Nod, I really like that for the Royal Hunt Cup. I was gutted it didn't run there, but it is entered in this race, so I'm going to keep the faith and hopefully, it's Gosden training, Ryan Moore's book for the ride, has all the right connections, and I think it's been laid out for Ascot specifically, hoping that they know far better than me and they've picked the right race. The other one I like the look of is, where's the horse now? It is, Never So Brave. I think that was going to be my selection for this race. And I was going to be quite strong on that, but obviously then Ride de France ended up being entered in this as well. But I think Never So Brave, that's been handled with kid gloves this season. He's only had the one run, finished second, and I think this has been the target all along. And then at bigger odds, Witch Hunter and Hogwin, I've been certain that a big race is in them, but they've just been really hard to place. I think this might be more a case of heart ruling ahead with that duo. But I know Sod's Law will absolutely prevail if I abandon them on the bigger stage. Of the rest, I think Ramazan might be overlooked and could go well at decent odds. And so can Divine Libra, who, if near the best, has enough in the locker to outrun the price as well. But quartet for me, Ride de France, Never So Brave, perhaps stronger selections, Witch Hunter and Hogwin. I think they're currently around 25-1, the pair of them. Small stakes each way bet. I mean, each way on all 4 of them, you have to back each way in races like this. But I'll apologise. Hopefully you can narrow it down a bit better than that, John.
I've got 2 selections for the race. The first one is Gleneagle Bay, came third in the Victoria Cup at the course previously. I like that, and the trainers, even though he's quite new, has had a good record in the last 6 months. So I'm going to go Gleneagle Bay each way. And the second horse is Oliver Show, trained by George Booley and ridden by Billy Loughlin. That's had good for all-weather form, and I'm hoping that can then transpire that to the race today. I think that's a fair price as well. I think it's about 10-1 Oliver Show. So I would say Oliver Show each way and Gleneagle Bay each way.
Fantastic. So those are all 7 races for day 3 of Royal Ascot 2025 covered. Hopefully we've got a hat full of winners and you'll be thanking your lucky stars that you watch this later on this afternoon. As always, any likes, comments and shares very much welcome. Make sure you're following us across our socials and head on over to racingdaily.com